evening, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us tonight. My name is Melody McAllister, and I'm so glad you could be here. I try to have a book chat every Wednesday, and you can find it on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. You can also catch the replay on these same channels. I want to give a special shout out to the Alice Keeler Teacher Tech and Thrive in Edu Facebook communities. Tonight, I'm here with an educator and author, Mathew Woods, and his book, I Want to Be a Pilot. This book is just one in the I Want to Be series by Mathew. I can't wait for him to share the story of why he created this series and what it means personally and globally. I hope you'll stay tuned as Mathew shares an author read aloud. And I know we enjoyed the book here in my house because it has an easy flow, it has a wonderful poetic rhyme, and I can see these books playing an instrumental part in personal and classroom libraries when it comes to inspiring kids to envision themselves in different career fields. Mathew, thank you for joining me tonight. Can you tell us a little bit about your background?
Thank you, Melody, for having me. I'm excited to be on here. Just a little bit about myself. I am an educator at heart, served in a lot of different capacities. I was a high school world history 2 and criminal justice teacher back in the day. And then, then I got into administration and served in a lot of different capacities as a building leader, as a middle and high school assistant principal, middle school principal. And I actually work at the central office level now as a director. So I've been able to, interact with students and families and community members from a lot of different perspectives, right? And then also, I've taught at the higher ed level, been an adjunct professor working with pre-service teachers. And then I also do some consulting as well, working with different leaders in school districts across the country. So it's given me a really wide umbrella and a wide range, and really got to see how different folks interact, like I said, with different students and really kind of think about best practices.
I love that. And so you have a very varied background. Did you ever see yourself as an author?
Yes, but not as a children's book author. And I know we're going to get a little bit into that later. But yeah, I always had a passion to write. Back in the day, I initially kind of struggled with reading. Just really nothing really kind of flowed for me. So I actually got an affinity and love for comic books and graphic novels. So I guess my first dive into being an author, I was actually working on a graphic novel. And it's just a lot of imagination, a lot of different comic book characters and things that I thought of. I tried to embed it within this story that I was working on. Use and encompass my love for history, the social sciences, because that was what I was my passion at the time when I was in the classroom. And then over time, obviously, I've found that writing has really kind of helped me just reflect on different things. So in turn, it's spawned into different endeavors, like from blogs, obviously, as to then it kind of creeps its way. Like, I think I want to kind of dive into some books. And like I said, it really is one of the many things that kind of led me into starting this children's book series.
Yeah, well, that is so cool because, you're talking about I want to be all these different things, and you have lived that. You've been a lot of different things. So that's really cool. And so do you mind sharing a little bit about like what actually, because you write about this in your book, like at the end of your book, you talk about the personal experience of why you wrote these. And I think it's a really great story to share, if you don't mind.
Sure. So, like I'm a parent, and I think it's weird because as being an educator, I'm surrounded by kids, right? All the time. So I often told people like, oh man, I deal with thousands of kids every day. But it becomes different when you have your own children.
Right.
And I know a lot of my colleagues and friends would say that. I'm like, oh yeah, I hear you. But things really kind of changed when I had my son. And one of the things that I'm really open about to people is the fact that my son is biracial. I'm Black and my wife is white. And one of the things that I started really, really noticing is that being an educator, obviously reading is very important to me, and it's as all educators know, it's fundamental, it's the foundation. So obviously, as an educator, have a passion for it. I want to put books in front of my son, right? But then I started really paying attention to the books I was putting in front of him. And I remember an experience. I was at a store. I won't say what store because it's a well-known brand, so I don't want them to, come after me talking bad about them. But I was looking for some books, and I remember getting very upset and frustrated. And what was really frustrating me was that I couldn't find anything that like reflected my son and my family. And it brought me back to experiences that I had when I was a kid. Because I think I referenced earlier my love of comic books. One of the things I loved about comic books is that a lot of the comic books I read, I saw characters that reflected me. Black Panther, and that was before the movies. Everybody, like, the comic book where you started off. When I think about John Stewart, who's one of the Green Lanterns, think about Falcon. I can name all these different characters, and I remember seeing them. And then I remember when I could get my first action figure, or some of my first action figures. So folks that know me know back in the day, I would actually collect black action figures. And the reason why is because you wouldn't see them, especially not to the level you do nowadays, right? So I just remember thinking about all that stuff. And even even when I was little, having these ideas and thinking about it. But obviously, when you're little, you think and you grapple with ideas, but you don't really kind of know what you're grappling with, but something's going on, right? So I just remember all those different ideas and emotions and things kind of flushed into me. So I remember talking to my wife about it, being real transparent. So I think she surprised me. I think it was like Father's Day. And she bought me one of those books where you kind of submit your pictures. So, it kind of looks like you and kind of looks like your kid. And I'll be real transparent with you and the listeners on here. When I got the book, first thing I said was, man, that dude looks like a model. He don't look nothing like me. He ain't got wrinkles and bags under his eyes. Like, I said, babe, I appreciate it, but that doesn't look like me. So I remember, me and her, we were just kind of joking around, and she had kind of said, well, look, if why don't you just write your own book? And I was like most husbands.
Did she say it like this? Well, why don't you write your own book? Or did she say, well, why don't you write your own book?
Exactly. Because I guess I wasn't appreciative of the gift at the moment, right? So of course, I'll go in the kitchen, write one right now. Go up in there. But I remember sitting at the kitchen table. I tell people the story. And then the idea just clicked. It was like, Hilton be the main character. And I'm going to be intentional about the occupations I choose. So one thing about the series, the occupations that I choose have some of the least number of minority males.
Wow.
In them. So I was very intentional. And I remember having these thoughts that night, like, hey, wait a second. And then as I started writing the first story, I want to be a lawyer. But then I thought about the educator side of me and thinking about, okay, how many times, and I'll pose this because I know you're an educator and other educators that are listening, how many times have we had conversations with parents and guardians who talk about what they want for their children, right. They want the best for them. But then they'll say things and like the goal is here and they're here, but there's still all of this we have to get through. So like when you say to somebody, for example, this was one I hear all the time. Hey, I want my kid to be like, like a lawyer or a doctor. Okay. Do you know how many years they have to go post high school? Oh yeah, they got to go to college. Yeah, to get your bachelor's, then you got to go get your law degree. Then you have to become licensed to be a lawyer. Then you got to pull your internship, and I remember saying these things to folks and they're like, wait, what? And even the terminology. So for the book, as I sketched out the stories, right, then I was very intentional and said, okay, I need to make sure I'm using vocabulary that people and parents as well, they need to be exposed to. So you might not know when I say the word licensure. but then it's going to trigger and your curiosity is gonna be like, what does licensure mean?
Mm-hmm.
When he says Juris Doctor, or Juris Doctor, excuse me, like, wait, what does that mean?
Maybe I need to read more of your books because I don't know what that means.
Exactly. But it takes you down the rabbit hole and it sparks that curiosity.
Yeah.
And that's part of that imagination. It's part of putting that into kids' minds at a very early age. And doing it in a way and being very intentional about what you're saying and how you're saying it. So then, like I said, so then I had the content, right? And then I was like, okay, how do I want the pictures, right? The illustration.
Yes.
So that's when the idea came to me. Like I said, it'll be my son, but the series is what follows him as he gets older. So like the year one chapter, the first 4 books, you see the picture of him. I know you've seen it in there when it talks about why the series started. It's a picture of him when he was 1. And we're almost in the process now of wrapping up the year 2 collection because it's a picture of him when he's 2. Then it'd be year 3, year 4, etc. And it'll just grow with him. And like I said, it's just been a great experience, and it definitely blown up and turned into something I didn't even realize.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love everything about what you just said. Rochelle, I don't know if you saw, it's funny that you said lawyer and then she was like, hey, everybody, because she's my favorite lawyer.
Yeah,
But and Aaron, thank you so much for joining us. But it's cool that you said that because, and we've talked about this, representation really does matter. And you and I both know that, especially as parents, but also as educators. And it doesn't just matter for those who it actually represents. It matters for everybody, because the more exposure we have to diverse characters all over the place, whether it be, the color of your skin, whether it be religion, whether it be, orientation, any of that helps us to understand that we have more in common than we don't, and that we're all human. And it just exposes us. It gets us out of our world, to be honest, when we're like, and I love it. And I'm glad that you sent this to me because now it's in my personal library. And I just hope that, once teachers and families see this, I hope they are like, yes, I want that for my library as well, because that's what we need to grow. These are the kind of books that we definitely need to grow. Oh, people are coming in. I'm eager to grab a copy for my sons. Yes, yes. And so when you picked these jobs, were any of these jobs or these careers, were they any that you also wanted to be when you were growing up?
So yes and no, because I tell people, because one thing about the books, and I think of a personal thing that happened to me. So my like my mom is an educator. She's an amazing educator. She was a teacher. She's an administrator. My my dad's an engineer. So education has been around me, obviously, right? And even for myself, when I think about, like my career, I was a teacher, and then I can remember transitioning into being an assistant principal. So, I know I'm not the smartest person. Lord knows that. My wife would definitely attest to that. Who's listening. But I know a little bit, right? I got a little bit of book sense.
A little bit.
And I tell people this story all the time. So I was a teacher, then I became an administrator. So I, bachelor's and master's degree, right? And I remember the school I was at the time, a professor had reached out, looking at some of the things that we were doing and just like, hey, y'all are doing some good stuff. Can I talk to you? Blah, blah, blah. And struck up a conversation with her. And I remember Melody, she said, hey, you need to work on your doctorate. And I was like, hey, that's cool, but I got some college loans over here. So I'm not really trying to pick up any more debt. Least Lord knows right now. And she said, well, like, and I remember her exact words. She was like, well, honey, you can go for an assistantship. And I don't feel stupid saying this, Melody. I remember thinking like, hey, I'm too old to play like basketball. Like you're offering like a scholarship. And she was like, no, I'm talking about an assistantship where we pay you to help us with research and it covers your studies. And I was like in my mid-20s, never heard of that before. Never.
Yeah, I have never heard of it either. And I'm in my 40s.
So, but that was the point. And that's one of the points I try to stress about these books as well, because naturally folks will make the assumption, oh, this is good working for different groups of people. And it's like, no. Like this type of content, this type of knowledge I'm talking about needs to be universal, because
Right.
there's power in knowledge, but
Yes.
then knowing specific things to ask. Because then I started thinking like, man, if I knew that to ask that question several years before, where would I be? Now, I've been very blessed. I've had an amazing career. I've met amazing folks. I wouldn't change anything. But
Mm-hmm.
things like that make you kind of wonder like, I wish somebody had said that to me
Yeah.
some ago. Like maybe that would have made me, I don't know, pay more attention in my undergrad classes, right?
Yeah.
Maybe that would have sparked me into putting a little extra time and study. Like you just never know. So that's why I'm very passionate about these books and very passionate about the content that's in there, because it's going to spark curiosity. It's going to cause people to have to ask questions. It's going to cause people to say, wait a second, let me look this word up. Okay, did I know that? Okay, I might know someone like that, but how can I link up and network to help my kid or get my kid doing something like this? I mean, it just starts getting all those wheels turning, and I love it.
Yeah, I love it too. And I mean, curiosity is my goal when I teach my kids. I want them to be curious, because as long as they want to learn, that's when real learning happens. And I think that your books are actually, they're going to create curiosity. They're going to create great conversation. And again, if you're looking for some books to put in your personal or classroom library, this is a great series. So, and usually when I have children's authors, sometimes because books are a little bit shorter than a big fat a book that usually adults read. You tell me you're going to read some of this, and you can read the whole book or some of the book. You let me know. You have given me, you've given a lot of conversation. I'm actually really impressed.
Right.
So I'm going to show the pictures while you read, and you read as long as you would like.
Sure. So I actually have a copy as well. So
I hope so.
all right. So if you'll hold the illustrations up, then I'll just kind of flip through and we'll
And
go
don't
from.
and start with your dedication. I think the best thing about being an author is, somebody says they want the whole book. Maybe they have one of their sons listening. I don't know.
Gotcha.
But definitely read that dedication. That's like the best thing.
Okay. So the dedication is to my son, to Hilton. And what I had said was, no matter how old you get, always remember that your potential is only limited by your imagination.
Love it.
All right. So every night before I lay down, I imagine what I want to be. Tonight, I will be a pilot. That is a fly thing to be.
Oh my gosh, sorry. I'm failing on my job.
You're good. I see them walk by in airport terminals, smiling and waving as they pass through the tunnels. Pilots fly aircrafts with passengers and goods, ensuring safe travel over your neck of the woods. There's an array of choices I can choose to fly, like helicopters, airplanes, or spaceships in the sky. As a kid, I can play games that simulate flights while sitting in the cockpit observing the heights. Adjusting the spoilers and rudder on demand to keep the wings steady as we prepare to land. The fundamentals stay the same, no matter my course, since they all require a license to join the workforce. The military route is another way to gain this knowledge while learning aviation skills, just like in college. Logging hours of flight time is quintessential if I plan on showing companies my true potential. Air Canada, Southwest, and Delta come to mind to make sure my experience is not misaligned. When I grow up, I'll do my best, no matter what I choose to be. I'll be the best pilot they've ever seen because I believe in me.
I love that.
Thank you.
That is great. And then you have about you and about the series. What a great story. Okay, people are. I'm sorry. I'm behind on. Rochelle says, "Oh yes, we saw that." Yes, I love the big vocabulary words as well. You did very well putting those, inserting them, and also using that poetic flow. How difficult was that for you?
It was. I mean, I have to give props. Like the editor, I know I work with Codebreaker on these books, so I've got to give them a shout out. But yeah, I mean, it does take a lot of thought to be very specific and intentional about the words. So I definitely, and that Lord knows my wife would get tired of me walking around like knowledge, like what, I'm like walking around, and then like seriously, I'm looking at a source and I'm looking through and I'm thinking, but then being very intentional and like you said, then just talking it out. Yeah, I'll write it out, but then I talk it out, and then I'm like, okay, what words and how can I embed them and make them flow? So obviously they keep the message, right? They hit
Right.
the concepts, but then doing it in a way and then kind of thinking like, okay, if when I'm talking to my son and reading this out, okay, this is a word he's probably like, wait, what? So then I know I'm going to have to explain it. And then if I don't know it, because like you said, there'll be words that even parents sometimes like, what do they mean by this concept? Being very intentional and coming back around to it.
Yeah, well, and I love it because, I have little kids. When I read to them and the first part of their reading is kind of memorizing. So it's short enough where they can memorize, but you put those words in there. So they're not memorizing just small words, sight words. They're actually getting that vocabulary. And that's so important. So kudos to you. It's a lovely book. It's, I mean, not everybody can get that rhyme in like that. So I'm actually very impressed. And I don't say that to everybody. So very, very good. And I know this is going to be a hard question and I didn't prep you on this and I apologize. And it might be a little bit too hard, but I hope that you'll try to answer this question. But of all of the books in your series, and you have, I want to be a lawyer, I want to be an architect, I want to be a CEO, I want to be a meteorologist, I want to be a software developer, and of course, pilot. Which one is your favorite?
Ooh, yeah, you definitely put me on the spot.
Yeah, I sure did.
I would have to say for sentimental reasons, the first one, and not necessarily because the occupation being a lawyer, it's because I remember, and I actually had a friend of mine say this recently. So I wrote it out, that first one, and I had the other ideas. And I remember my buddy who I said it to, I was so excited about it. I was like, hey man, like, look at this. And it's funny because you kind of fast forward like maybe like a year-ish. I know the time started to slip from me. And he was just kind of saying how crazy it was to see it kind of go from a sidebar conversation that he was like, hey, you were real passionate about it, to like, hey man, like look at what's going on. Look at how these books are getting shared out. Look at what folks are saying about it. So I think that's the piece that really kind of sticks out. Remembering that conversation and then fast forward to having like opportunities like this to kind of talk about it with other folks.
Yeah, and you kind of, you did this by yourself at first because before you published with Codebreaker, you put these books out. Like, did you self-publish?
I self-published. So I I was like a madman, like, so
And
um
did you publish them all at the same time, or did you do one at a time?
they kind of staggered. They were kind of like one at a time. And what happened was, so I have like for example, I have like 5 other stories already kind of drafted out, right? So like I had like all these stories drafted out. And then I said, okay, now I need the illustrations. Well, I'm not really an artist. Okay. I can do a
Right.
nice little stick figure. Um,
I hear you on that.
so I sketched out the ideas, but like the way it came to me. So like in the beginning, like if you notice, for example, and for the listeners or the viewer, excuse me, the first page and the last page pretty much look the same. One
Yeah.
was like still kind of sunny. So that picture is actually the corner of my son's room.
Oh,
That's
that's
his
so cool.
chair. The blanket in the back is actually a blanket someone made for him. Um, that's his window. And then I'll tell everybody a secret. When you look at the windowsill, his initials, I actually slid them in there and they're written into the windowsill.
Okay, now I gotta look. Excuse me while I look.
So, but I was very passionate. The way I wanted the story to start off is if I'm reading to him
Mm-hmm.
and he's looking at the book, and then you notice by the time you get through the book, we're still
Right.
sitting in the chair, but by then he's falling asleep on me.
Exactly.
And one of the reasons why I was intentional about that, and I know when I worked with the illustrator, shout out Zoe, if you are seeing this, my illustrator, she is amazing, y'all. Um,
Shout out to Zoe Neely.
yeah, Zoe Neely, shout out Zoe. Um, I'm very passionate about my job. I'm very
Mm-hmm.
passionate to be an educator. But I'm very transparent with folks. I put in a lot of hours,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes more than probably should. So I know as an administrator, there have been a lot of nights, and I know there will be nights that I miss seeing my son go to bed because
Mm-hmm.
I have responsibilities and commitments that folks need me to be responsible for, right? And the book, I wanted to make sure it starts with me sitting there with him and ends with me. So even if like I'm not there and like my wife or someone has to read it,
Yeah,
he knows that I'm there with him, and he knows how passionate I am about it. And then like yeah, from there, then even with the other illustrations, I'll kind of like sketch them out, send them to her. She works with me. She's amazing. Helps me kind of fine tune it. And like I said, so yeah, then I had it. Then I said, okay, I want to get this out. So
mm-hmm.
then I'll be honest with you, I just wanted to self-publish it as a surprise. And it was a surprise because like my wife didn't know. So then I was like, you told me to write a book, babe. Here you go.
Wow.
But then I had folks were like, hey, I saw that picture you posted. Can I get a copy? And I was like,
Yeah.
all right, cool. Well, then people like the copies and hey, you got any more? Like, what else are you doing? I was like, well, I got some other ideas. So the initial, when I was self-publishing, I'll be real honest with you, I was only doing it so I could actually put a book in my son's hand.
Yeah.
Complete transparency. But people kept saying, hey, I like what you're doing. And it's resonating with me. Can we get a copy?
For
So
sure.
then, like I said, it just blew, it just grew. So then obviously as I got a book deal, that really kind of escalated things and just blew it up. And here we
Yeah.
are.
Well, congratulations on that. And you did that very quickly. So I love it. I have a couple of questions. When I say what's next, I know a little bit about what's coming, but also as your family grows, are you going to expand your books to grow a little bit to the I Want to Be series?
So we're actually, my wife and I were expecting, I'm gonna have a little girl. She'll be here in September. And some ideas have already come to mind for her, which is great. Because of course folks are like, hey, you
Yeah,
gotta start
because
about her.
you can't just
Like,
have a book. Like, I mean, you'll go to war
yeah.
one of these days if he has all these books about him and she doesn't.
Well, yeah, I know. That's what my mom has said to me. Well, mom and my dad too. But an idea has popped into my head, a theme. So be on the lookout. There will be some things coming, and I'm really excited about it. So
Congratulations,
thank
by
you.
the
So
way.
I'm working on that. Some other things that are going on. I actually have a master's course coming out, leading
Nice.
up the woods, building relationships. So shout out Dr. Wallace Ting if you're watching at School Rubric. We partnered up, and that's actually going to be, knock on wood, going live, if not next week, the week after.
Oh my goodness.
Fine tuning that, yeah. So
Put the link if you want to drop the link or a pre-order link. Put it in the
sure,
comments and drop it. Yeah.
We'll plug that in, and but yeah, that'll be going live, and I'm really excited about it. It's a professional development that, teachers, administrators, district leaders, counselors, that we go through some different steps and strategies to help promote and build relationships with students and stakeholders. And like I said, it's interactive. We have different activities built into it. You even get a professional development certificate that you could, turn in for, possible
Nice.
credit. So I'm really excited about that. I have a professional development. We're calling like a processing guide, kind of like a manual that I'm doing with a good friend of mine, Samantha, who's a professor, Dr. Samantha.
Message.
Yeah, Fessig. Sorry.
So with EduMatch, so you're going to be in the EduMatch family, or you are in the EduMatch family.
Yes. So we're fine tuning the tweaks on that. But yeah, that's right now. It's going to be like a digital PD for educators.
Nice.
And we're excited about it. So essentially, it's going to take educators through some of the things that we kind of all know or been exposed to, right? Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, and kind of give like a brief backstory about it. But then most importantly, give scenarios and examples of how to use it to inform and engage your students, right? In a medium that they're already using. And it's going to be interactive. So like, you could actually have it in front of you. It's going to give you the tips. We're going to have a hashtag that we encourage all of the readers to use. So then we're actually going to build that network and that community. So like, as you're doing cool stuff on Instagram, if I'm doing cool stuff on Facebook, Rochelle's doing cool stuff on Twitter, it'll all be linked with the same hashtag. So then you have like a one-stop shop to kind of go there and see how people are applying some of the content.
Awesome.
So working on that, obviously.
Yeah, you've got a lot.
Yeah, obviously working on some more books. Huh?
Congratulations on all of it.
Yeah, so those are like the biggies right now, and I got few other things going on too. But those are the things that are kind of more like fleshed out that are upcoming.
Nice. I love it. And I'm like somebody said, I think it was Aaron. Welcome to the EduMatch fam. That is so cool. And it's so cool that once you start writing and publishing, you're like out there, and it just becomes easier and easier. But yeah, so we have actually come to the end of the broadcast, and I appreciate so much that you shared the actual entire book. That's so, and y'all, I put it in the comments, but I'm going to drop it one more time. If you want to find activities and the more information about these books, Mathew has put them at meethilton.com, and I will flash that on the screen. Go there. This is a great series, and I'll probably buy some more, maybe the whole series, and I look forward to what else you're going to be putting out there. But before we do say goodbye, do you have any last words that you'd like to share with us?
No, like I said, thank you so much for having me on here. I'm excited. Like I said, it's a blessing to remember sitting there being frustrated because I couldn't find something like this, and then seeing how that frustration got bottled up, turned into an idea that's really kind of fleshed out, and doing it in a way that it went from me just doing something for my son, so hopefully like as he grows, he has something to kind of come back to and reflect on, to it touching the lives of other students and educators. Like I said, words just can't put in perspective how much I appreciate it.
I love that message that you use your frustration to lead to innovation. And honestly, that's one of the biggest lessons in life. You can either let it, sit on the sidelines and just be mad, or you can turn it around and do something, solve one of your own problems. And I think this is Erin. She says money equals more books, but okay, I don't know, but stick around. I'm going to put my outro on, but don't drop off. I want to get a selfie that we can put on our different socials. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Thank you, everybody that watched. This is great. This is good. You can watch the replays, and I think this is a good one to share with your kids if they're already in bed. This is a great story to share with your kids, and make sure that you follow Matthew. And we'll see you all next week. Bye, everybody.
Bye, y'all.